Today we'll be going over how we can make a custom weapon that has custom abilities and a custom crafting recipe to make it. So I went ahead and jotted down some ideas and kind of how we'll make this work. So we'll create a custom sword using blockbench, and we'll go over how we can do that in the first part of the video. In the next part we'll go over the first ability, which will be sweeping flames. I'm thinking that I'm going to use a bunch of armor stands with fire particles and then just teleporting them in different directions. And we'll trigger it by using just right click with the sword. With the second ability, we're going to try to make some fire homing missiles. And the same logic, we'll be using armor stands with some fire particles. And then I also want the missiles to be able to be defendable for players as well, make this PvP friendly. And so we're going to use an interaction entity placed on top of it. Then we'll teleport the armor stands to the nearest entity that is not the player. And we'll add a lifespan just so the missiles have a duration time to them. And then to trigger this, we'll use the shift and right click method. So same thing with this one. We'll just act with advancement whenever we right click it, and we'll make sure that we're shifting. And then the last one is increasing damage against entities that are already on fire. Custom enchantments handle most of the logic, which is super handy. All you have to do is check for the attacker entity properties that they're on fire, and we'll just add damage. And the last thing is crafting, which is super easy. We'll just go over how we can do that with one of the generators. And let's get started over in blockbench. Alright, now that you've opened up blockbench, you're going to go ahead and create a Java block/item. We'll go ahead and create a model. File name. Name this whatever you like. I'll be calling mine the fire sword. And then just go ahead and confirm. And to get started here, over on the right hand side, we're going to go ahead and add a cube. Alright, blockbench is just all about using a bunch of cubes to create something cool. And then you're also able to add a group. This is how we're going to able to organize our sword. So I might create a group and rename this the handle. That way the handle, and then I'll drag this cube in the handle. And this way I can select a large group of cubes at once later when I retexturize this. So with blockbench, you can add multiple cubes and shape them across, drag around. As far as tutorials go, this is not going to be a very in-depth blockbench tutorial. You'll just kind of want to play around with it and make something cool as you go. If you press space or you go over here, you can resize cubes. So there's move, resizing, rotating, pivoting, vertex snaps. We'll go over some of those really quickly as we learn our basics. So I've reshaped my cube. I can also press shift and click, and it will increment them by 0.25s. I can hold control and click, and it's by 0.1. So it's more finer tunes. I'm going to control click on both sides all around. And then same thing with that. And then this guy, I want to resize it so it's like this. And then 2 snaps in. This will not be the whole video. I will speed this up. I do want to get some vertex snaps demonstrations, and then we'll take it away. So quickly we'll go over vertex snap and why it's super useful. Or I guess we can go rotate next. So rotate, you press this, and then you can rotate the cubes. You cannot rotate with 2 directions, as it says like that. You can only rotate it on one of the 3 axes. Let's go ahead and, so we have a rotated cube. Let's say we want to connect this to this, and we want it to be really clean. We use a tool called the vertex snap, in which we locate the corners that we want to connect, and it snaps it together perfectly aligned, right like that. So that's kind of the basic tutorial. That's all I'm going to go over in this video. if you want to learn more about blockbench, I would recommend checking out another tutorial. But I'll see you back. We'll do a short little time lapse of me creating the sword, and I'll see you at the end of it.
You don't cry, you're not strong enough to care. Getting lost in my own pain, not in the game. One more dance to see me. I've been hoping we could try not to lie alone tonight. I will never have the life you stole. Now I'm keeping everything in my soul. If you call me in the night, I will ask you every time, can you breathe with me? In another life, I'm feeling colder than your light. But tonight, I feel it's time to override the tale. I gotta pick you up, rewind. Your wicked words that crush my mind. You put me on the line.
Okay, now that we have our model, we're going to go ahead and import our textures. So there's two ways we can do this. We can either manually texture everything, which for some people would be more enjoyable. Or there's the lazy way, which if we go to edit, we can import textures, which you can import them from Minecraft. This does require you to have already extracted all the files from a versions file, and if you don't know how to do that, I will not be covering this in this video. So for others, just go ahead and just paint it. Now then, once we finish, we want to go ahead and export our model. We're exporting a block or item model. We want to make sure this is a .json type. Now we want to go ahead and find our resource pack. So for mine is in the resource pack folder, and we are using the fire sword tutorial. Under assets, Minecraft, it will be under models. Right here, we're going to go ahead and save it. And then let's go ahead and open up our resource pack folder. Okay, once we're inside of our resource pack folder, it's under assets, Minecraft, models. Right here we have our fire sword. So under items, we need a new file. So new, we'll make text document, and just the name that's the same thing we named our other thing. And then we need to change this to be a .json. Yep, we are sure we want to change this. Alright, once you go ahead and name that fire.json, now then we want to go ahead and open up this file. Alright, once we've opened that, we want to go ahead and paste in some code. And then we're just going to change this up so that it is the same as this one. Alright. So it should have the bracket model. This will be a Minecraft type model. And then this is the location of where our model is, which is under item/fire sword. So then when we summon the item, this is how it reads it out first. And then the last step is we need to make sure we have our texture saved. So we go ahead and pull those out. So when we're back in the resource pack, let's go back up to Minecraft. With this, I've already added the atlas. So I'm going to go to textures and custom. It'll read the custom folder. Right here is where we want to put in our saved textures. So if we made custom textures in blockbench, right? So I made 2 custom textures, and then one was a Minecraft texture. With our custom textures, I want to make sure I save as, and then locate the folder that we were just in. So once we get to our fire sword, it's under Assets, Minecraft, Textures, Custom, and Save. Same thing here. Alright, so we have our texture saved. And now then, let's go ahead and open up Minecraft and take a look at our textures. Alright, once you're in Minecraft, go to Options, Resource Pack. If you don't know how to find your folder and put it in there, you can go ahead and open Pack Folder. It'll open it up. Drag the Texture Pack folder in there, and then go ahead and load it up. Once it is done loading, we want to go ahead and make sure it works. So let's give ourselves any kind of item, as long as it has the item model, and then whatever we named it. And we can see here it did not work. Missing block model fire sword. Alright. Okay, I figured out my mistake. Under models, we're supposed to have another folder called item. And then drag our sword into item. And so that was one of the changes I made. And then the other change was inside the fire model, instead of, well, this may not have been the same case for you guys, but there should be the custom / whatever the name of the texture is, because these are the two custom textures I made, and the lava flow is from the Minecraft textures, so it's just going to go ahead and read that automatically. I don't need to change that. And then this should fix it. If I press F3 and T, it should reload it, and there we have it. We have a cool fire sword. Third person, check this out. And what's really cool is I used the lava texture, so it is on fire. So maybe I will go over quickly how we can do that. So if you go ahead and find your Minecraft folder, and you go to versions, click on the latest version you've played. So let's say it's 1.21.8. You click the jar file, and then make sure it's selected, right click it. And I want to be able to extract all the files. Yeah, so using an app like 7-Zip, I can just do extract here, and it'll extract all the files, and I delete everything except for the assets and data. Well, I guess all you need is assets for this, but I like to use this for data packs as well. You go into the assets, and then this is just all your default Minecraft resource pack, which is how you find that. Which ended up making the sword having emissive textures, which is sweet. All within vanilla. Alright, so then, now that we have our sword, the first step is done. Now we want to go ahead and look at how we can add a right-click ability that will have a bunch of those things. So now we're going to go over how we make the first ability, which will be the Sweeping Flames. Remember our logic here, we're going to be using multiple armor stands, and we're just going to put a fire particle on all of them, and we're going to set all of the armor stands to be facing slightly out in different directions in a 90-degree angle. Yeah, I mean about 90 degrees. So, right, if we go ahead and we'll describe ourselves an armor stand. Right, here's the idea. Is we're going to have a bunch of them come out. So when we right click, they'll spawn here, and then they're going to move in the direction that I'm facing in. And they'll be invisible, and we'll have like a fire particle on top of them. And so to do this, I went ahead and I've already went ahead and coded it up because it took a little bit longer than anticipated. So if we want to get them to move, we're going to start in our tick function. And for this fire sweep, we're just going to execute as all the armor stands that are part of the fire sweep. And we're going to run a function. Over in that function, we go to fire sweep, and then we're going to go to sweep. Right here is we're putting the particle on top of the armor stands, and then we're going to be teleporting the armor stands negative half a block in the direction that they're facing. Okay, and I'll get into why we're doing this in a second. And the other thing that we're doing every second is if there's an entity that is not a part of our list of entities that we want to ignore within 1 block, and it's not the armor stand, or that's not the player that just shot this, we're going to run that we hit something, right? So inside of this, we have a custom entity type. So to do that, you need to have a tags folder inside of your namespace, right? So if I close this, close recipe. So inside tags, we have another folder called entity underscore type. And right here is just a list of every single entity I want to ignore. I only want it to hit like the mobs and such. So back to our sweep. And then the reason why I want to do negative half a block is when we start our function, we're summoning our armor stands so that they're all about within a span of 5 blocks. We have them each set about 0.25 away from each other. And then if they're all standing about 0.25, so it's all very tight, like these are like 1 block away from each other, right? They're going to be very tight. And then I'm going to set them all to face me via the feet. So when they're all facing me, if we go ahead and turn on hitboxes, we do F3 and B, you can see that all these armor stands by default are facing in this direction. If they're all facing me and they're going backwards, they'll spread out in the opposite direction from me, kind of creating a effect. So I'll kind of show you what that looks like. If I go ahead and craft the item, and then we'll just need a couple items here. So we put our sword here, redstone block, surround it in our lava, and then boom, we have our special sword. So then if I right click, it summons all these flames, and I'll go into third person so you can kind of see the spread, right? And it's based off of the direction I'm looking in. Oh, it's on cooldown, and then voila, and it goes off. And then, as you can see, if they don't hit anything, they just kind of dissipate after a little bit. But if I do hit something, right, it hits it and it takes damage. So let's take a look at that. So every second we're running this command, right, which we're sweeping, and if we have any entity that is not the person that executed it, and that is not one of the entities we're ignoring, if they're within 1 block from the armor stand, then we're going to go ahead and run our hit function, which all it is we're going to go ahead and damage the nearest entity, which we can just use slash or @n and then drop this. It just means the same thing. And then we're damaging them with 7 with the fireball damage type. You can choose whatever you'd like. And then we're just going to play a sound. I got the blaze getting hurt. And then I added some particles here so it kind of like explodes at it. So I can show you what that looks like. Oop, let's get a slash. The flames just kind of shoot out away from you. And then it's very important, once we hit it, we want to kill the armor stand. Otherwise, it'll go through it. I mean, I guess you could have it set so that it doesn't, but I like the idea that an entity could block it from another one getting hit. So if I have like 2 cows in a line, only the first one gets hit because it blocked it, because we're killing the armor stand. And so how we detect that that I'm right clicking it is in the recipe, which I'll go over later more in depth. One of the things that we're adding is the consumable and food. So I'm technically eating it, but it's going to take 99 seconds to do it. Unless someone wants to hold it down for 90 seconds, they're not going to lose their sword. And so whenever I eat this, or whenever I try to eat it anyways, I have an advancement set up, right, which is called Fire Sweep, with the trigger of using an item, and then making sure that I'm not sneaking, and it's just checking to make sure that I have the item model of Fire Sword, right, which is the custom sword that we made. Once it does this, it's going to go ahead and run the check function that I wrote. So in my check, I'm just making sure that it's not on cooldown, because I don't want people to just be able to spam this. So I'm revoking the advancement, and then I'm checking if my cooldown is at 0, then I'll run my start. If not, so unless the score is at 0, it's going to let me know that it's on cooldown with the basic tell raw command. That's the thing in chat. When I spam right click, chat goes off saying that it's on cooldown. And to make the cooldown happen, inside of the load function, we just want to add a scoreboard. So the scoreboard is our Fire Sweep cooldown. It's going to be dummy. And in our 1 second function, this will occur every second, we are going to remove 1 cooldown from the player as long as they have at least 1. This way it'll stop once they hit 0 instead of going to the negatives. So once we go through our check, and the other part of load is we need to make sure we add the players to the scoreboard. So when we add the players, this happens every time you type /reload or you load up the world. We're just going to execute as everyone unless their score is 99 or less. It'll set their thing to be 0. This just means if they're not part of the on the scoreboard, they'll be added to it when you reload the world, which is important. Otherwise, they won't be able to use this. So after we hit check, we go to start, and the start is we set our cooldown to be 5 seconds by setting the cooldown to 5, and then when we want to tag ourselves as the Fire Sweeper, that way when we are checking to get hit, right, when we're taking a look to see if we have an entity, we're making sure that they don't have Fire Sweeper so it doesn't hit us. And then we're just letting us know that we're using the ability. We're summoning all of our armor stands. And then remember, we're teleporting the armor stands to be facing ourselves. Which, this should be at S, but just in case there's another player right next to you. And we're setting it to their feet. And then I have 2 sounds, just to kind of add to the effect. And the other thing I'm adding is a lifespan, which I've done this before in the past, but in case you haven't watched those videos, our lifespan, if we go back to load, is just another dummy scoreboard. And in the second function, every second, we're killing anything that has a lifespan of 0, and we're removing anything that has a lifespan of 1 or more. So after 3 seconds, all of these will die. Right, all of our Fire Sweeping armor stands will die. That gives them the how far they'll go out. Otherwise, they'll just go on for infinite into the unloaded chunks. And then I go ahead and set my cooldown, or my reset, I guess it'd be more accurate to say, my reset function for 5 seconds, which should be the same amount of time as your cooldown. And all this is we're going to remove our Fire Sweeper tag so that we don't permanently have that. So if 2 people have it and 1 person shoots you and you don't have that Fire Sweeping tag anymore, you can get hit by the own thing as well. Okay, and then I think that's pretty much it for the Fire Sweep. We tackled all those. All we have... you notice I do have hitboxes on, that there is no hitbox to the armor stands, even though armor stands have a hitbox. And I'm accomplishing that because when I'm summoning them, they're a marker. This just removes the hitbox for the armor stand, which is why I've included it here. It's important that we have the marker and it's invisible, and that we want to tag it with fire sweep to know which armor stand we're summoning. Okay, now the fun part. We're looking at a homing missile, right? So this will track an entity and hit it. And I also want us to attack the missile to prevent it from hitting us. So that if someone else shoots a missile at me, like for PvP, I can defuse the missile or even reflect it. But instead of reflecting, I just chose to defuse it, so the missile just kind of dies. So I'll do a demonstration of it. We'll go over here. And if I'm shifting and I right click, I summon 2 homing missiles. You notice that they both converged on the cow because it was the nearest entity. And once that died, the other one went over here. Oh, it's on cooldown. This one has a nice 15-second cooldown. And it kind of tracks it and kills it just like that. Alright, so then let's take a look at that. Starting in on our tick, we're executing at the fire missile every 20 times a second, right, in our tick. And we're taking a look at our missile function. This just gives us the red dust. And then to make it homing, we're going to go ahead and teleport it facing the nearest entity, right, that we're ignoring. So we're only going to hit the mobs that we want. And we're going to ignore the player that just shot it out. And we're going to TP them. This determines the speed of how fast they move. This is pretty fast, but you can still deflect it at this speed. If it's more PvP, I would maybe lower the speed to like 0.3 or something. I can block it, but it's really hard to block both missiles, which maybe that's what you want. And then we want to just teleport our interaction entity to our armor stand missile, right? And then we want to check to see if our interaction entity has been left-clicked or attacked, which is really cool interaction to have a built-in data thing, where if you left-click an interaction, the data is called attack, and this will be true. So we're executing as our interaction that if they have attack data stored in them, meaning you left-clicked it, I'm going to go ahead and run a function called deflect. And all deflect will do is I'll play a sound effect, and I'm going to kill the interaction and the armor stand. So maybe I'll demonstrate that as well. So I need to execute it as a cow. So if I execute as at entity type equals cow, and at s, if I run the function fire missile start, let me get away from him so I can deflect it in time. They're coming at me, and I killed one of them. I think the other one hit me. Okay, yeah, so I broke one, I got hit by the other one, but I was able to deflect that, versus if they both hit me, yeah, it does a lot of damage. Alright, and so the check is the same principle. We're just checking to we're getting rid of the advancement, and we're checking to see if we're on cooldown. And the same thing with our load. We added the fire missile cooldown, and we're adding all players to it. So then we go back to our start function, check. So we have that. Now we can start it. So we start the function. We set our cooldown to 15 seconds. We tag ourselves with the missiler one. We're letting us know that we are activating this ability. And I'm summoning 2 armor stands, one to my right from 3 blocks, and then one to my left for 3 blocks. And then I summon a interaction to the exact same spot, so that when I'm teleporting them, it's the nearest interaction, so they stick together with each other. And then this is the hitbox size of our interaction entity. So if you go back into here, and you can see that small little box there. That's the size of our interaction entity. You can see it only with hitboxes on. If you have hitboxes off, all you see is the red particle coming at you. And then we just have our sound effect here. We're adding a lifespan of 5 seconds to both the interactions and the armor stands. That's what they have. They can go a pretty good distance. So if I'm like this far, as you can see, they're gonna really go to the distance, and they just barely don't make it to him. And they ignore this cow because he's got the tag of fire missiler, and in my cooldown thing, it just only removes it from players because monsters can't really use this. So this wouldn't really occur in the game that you would notice. Okay, and then it's the same principle all during our missile thing. We're just teleporting. We already went over that part. And then the hit function, same thing. We're just damaging the nearest entity with whatever damage type we choose. Running a play sound, splatting some particles. And then we just want to make sure if we hit something that we kill the armor stand and the interaction. So remember, if we're doing hit, the hit function is being run as the armor stand. So we can kill at S, kills the armor stand, and this kills the nearest interaction that's connected to it. And that's all there is for the missile thing. Next up, we have our recipe. Right. And the easiest way, if you want to make your own custom recipes, is I'll leave a link in the description to this. You can go ahead and go to miso.github.io, and this has a generator for everything you need for Minecraft. So we can go to recipe. As you can see, I already kind of filled it in. But it's so easy. All you do is you make a pattern. You can type whatever characters you want. You type in 3 characters. If it doesn't need all 3, put spaces in there. So like space, 1 space, and then maybe 2, 1 space. Right? And this kind of tells you, it even shows you what it looks like. And then you can make a key here, so like, okay, I want to say 1. 1 is going to be maybe like acacia leaves, or it could also be, spruce leaves, or a spruce door. So it could be either one of these two. And then we add another key for our 2, and 2 has to be like, let's say, diamonds or something. And so then it shows you the recipe in front. And then your result is your custom item. So for our custom item, we wanted to make sure that it's consumable and it's food. This makes it so that we can right click it and detect that. And then I went ahead and threw some enchantments. I just threw the vanilla one just so it could fill it out for me. And then later I went through and in my recipe I changed it to my custom one, which I'll go over next. And then this just renames the item to whatever we want, so I call that magmas. And then we added lore, so that when we look at the item in our hotbar here, it says that right click to use the fire sweep, and then right click and shift to use fire missile. All we're doing here is we're adding lore, and every entry here is a new line. I just threw epic rarity. This changes the color of the name to that, so you can see how like these are white, those are common items. Yellow is uncommon, and rare I believe is blue. Yeah, like enchanted golden apples, like a rare. And then I made it so that in an anvil, like if this gets damaged, if I'm in survival. And I summon a bunch of cows. Oh, whoops. Summon cow. And then I'm hitting all these cows, damages the item. I can then grab an anvil and a lava bucket. And then put this in there, and this will repair the item. So we can add different custom things to repair a custom item. And then I added the weapon thing, so this can also disable shields. And I can determine how long it'll disable shields and how much damage the item takes. Like, let's say this is like meant to be a tool, but it's also a weapon part-time. You can make it so that the weapon takes more durability damage. So this just takes 1 by default. And that's all the custom things I added for that. And the last part was the enchantment. Enchantment is the same thing. They have an enchantment generator here. It's so handy. There's no need to ever type these out by hand. It already saved it since I didn't clear my cache. But all I want for this enchantment, I kind of go over it in here. In my enchantment, I call it solar. And this enchantment is not available in the enchantment table. If I want to do that, go ahead and check out the enchantment video I made on custom enchantments. But all it does is you add some tags to it into the Minecraft namespace. And it can determine what loot tables it'll be in. But for this one, we call it solar, so this will appear on the item. It has a max level of 1. I made it just so it's only useful for swords, because the only way to get it is the fire sword recipe. And then this means nothing unless it's part of a loot table. Again, this means, oh, I already explained that. And then the min and max cost is just for the enchantment table. So this means nothing as well. You can put whatever numbers you want. And then it's only used if it's in the main hand slot. And this is how it actually affects something. So I added it so that it'll add damage. So we're adding 2 damage per hit, with the requirement that the entity that I'm hitting, so that's the entity this, is on fire. So this goes really well if you have fire aspect. So that one-shot it. Let's get a grindstone. And let's remove the enchantment. I don't think that should one-shot a cow unless it has fire aspect. Yeah, so you can see that because it has fire aspect, the entity's on fire, and it does that extra 2 damage. So that this one will one-shot. Oh. Maybe not. You also have to trust me that it does work. I tested this earlier. If let's say you have if you really want to test how it works, right? It's 100, and if you change an enchant, you have to reload the world for it to take effect. If you do /reload, custom enchants don't work like that. And we'll summon an iron golem, which I obviously can't one-shot unless it's on fire. And so it's on fire now, and I kill it. So my first hit, because they weren't on fire, it doesn't do the bonus damage. Oops. So like, I hit the once, and then this will just insta-kill it, because it's on fire now. And that's our custom weapon. Let me know if you guys want to see more content, or if you want me to go over a different type of weapon type, maybe like a ranged one, or maybe even do like custom armor. Go over how we can add cool things and abilities with that. But that'll do it for today.